I think a big part of your writing, and you touched on this a bit, is about openness and it's about vulnerability, which is so hard for us as Arabs to do. We love, love, love to push things under the rug rather than dealing with it head on. If something is Arab, if something is seen as outside the norm, we kind of throw it under the rug and pretend it's not there. You know, you were talking a bit about how you experience sexual harassment in your community and how they would rather just sort of push it under the rug and not speak about it in the hopes that it might go away, hopes that it might be dealt with. But that's not the case. And we know that's not the case. How do we sort of combat this cultural norm? Where do we even start? Something that's been so ingrained in us for so, so long. How do we kind of revert that?
I think it's through continuous education, to be honest, and it's going to be the newer generations really who are going to break that cycle of continuing to fall into, you know, living the same way and fearing the same things. And if we can't have open and honest conversations, and if we, unfortunately, it will take people going against the system that's built in, like I did, like many other women did. I mean, unfortunately, it's mostly women who are going to have to speak up more because let's be honest, it is more man oriented, this culture. It's more about like, so where does the word "taib" come from? You know, what's shameful? It's shameful for a woman to walk outside with perfume on. It's shameful for a woman to express any sort, like any sort of um, femininity. You know, you hear that being told. It's sad for a woman to wear a short skirt or show her cleavage, or that's when you hear those words. When it comes to women, when it comes to men, it's more like you didn't respect someone older than you. You know, it's not the
Yeah.
same.
No,
Not the
it's not the same.
It's going to have to be quite a bit of courageous women who are going to speak up and courageous men who are going to say, I support you and I hear you and I believe you. And it's going to take quite a bit of breaking the whatever it is that makes that shame grow more toxic and chipping at it bit by bit. And it really does have to be through what we started our interview with, looking at each other as humans. At the end of the day, we're all the same. And once you strip away all those layers of what if this and what if that and what is that person going to think, and you know, what are my parents going to think and what are my relatives going to think, like when you stop being so bound by everyone else around you, including everything else around you, teachings and all of that, then that's when you can truly look at the person in front of you and talk to them and talk to their heart instead of having all of those things in between that stop you from connecting with the person in front of you. So it's going to take a lot of that, and I believe it's already happening, like in the younger generations. And to be honest, there are quite a few people who are you know, at older ages who are here, living here in Canada and the States, who are very open minded. Like, I always say this, and I think I said this when we first met at the interview with Danica Patrick at the end, when you said, you know, I worry that when people hear your story, they think that all Muslim girls or all Arab girls or whatever have the same experience. I'm always careful to say, there are parts of the Arab world that are very strict, just like there are parts of here that are very strict.
Mhm.
There are also parts that are very open, like even more open than here, and parts where you can have conversations like this, where you can push the boundaries, where religion and culture don't really play a big role in the way that people live. But it's very important, especially like a podcast like this, for example, is very important for those who don't have that kind of luxury. And it's sad to call it a luxury because it shouldn't be a luxury. It's a right to just be open and say, "No, I don't agree with that," without fearing, like having genuine fear that either you're going to be emotionally berated or physically hurt, unfortunately, or your reputation will be ruined. Like things like that bother me so much that this is why it's important to have conversations like this, because yes, there might be a girl listening and saying, "Oh my God, they are making us look so bad." I don't care about that. I care about the girl sitting in the corner of her room, bawling her eyes out every night because she feels like no one understands her. This is what we are here for. This is what we are here to do. We are here to, and this girl doesn't have to be Arab. She doesn't have to be Muslim. She doesn't have to be, because like I said, there are certain pockets in the world where this happens, you know? And I get emotional talking about this because, like, the isolation, the amount of isolation that some girls and women experience because some don't want to make us look bad, that's not worth it. I'm sorry. I don't want you to feel safe and comfortable because you already live a safe and comfortable life at the expense of that girl sitting in the corner waiting for someone to say, "I get exactly what you're going through. I get that," reflecting back on my own experiences, for example, um, something like dating. I never dated. That wasn't even a topic to be discussed. Like, that wasn't something we could talk about. Where I had friends who were Arab, who were Muslim, who went out and dated, and their parents were more than fine with it. I didn't even think I could talk to my parents about that because that's just the kind of life I lived. The understanding I had was you get to a certain age where a man comes and proposes, you get married, and you move on. Like, talking about boys? No, you don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, it was just it's not something that you talk about, especially not with your parents. And like, my parents are good people. They wouldn't, I'm pretty sure if I opened the topic, they would have talked to me about it somehow. But it was just the way that I was raised, the environment that I was in, the village that I lived in, the school that I went to, everything taught me, you go to school, hopefully by the time you're done, you get proposed to, you get married, you start a life, you work a job that you doesn't really get in the way of you raising your children, and that's life. So it's not as simple as saying, um it's not as simple as saying not everybody experiences that. It can't be that simple because each one of us has their own story. So certain things like dating, for example, I found to be, some of the youngest girls in the community reach out to me and say, like, I'm dating someone, my parents don't know, and I'm afraid of what will happen if they do find out. And like, what do you advise me to do? And what breaks my heart is that they feel that they have to hide what they're doing, which is they're only doing it because they want to experience new things and they want to feel loved and they want to, they're at that age. Sorry, I keep getting emails.
It's okay. You're good.
That age. And um and they feel so much, they feel like they are making a mistake by, and some, again, there are some people listening to this who are going to say, yeah, that is a mistake, girls shouldn't be dating. I'm not saying yes or no whether dating is right or wrong before marriage. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, why can't we talk about it? Like, why is it such a shameful thing to talk about it? I don't want a 16-year-old girl to be out there dating behind her parents' back, behind everyone else's back. And when something happens to her, she can't even talk about it because she shouldn't be dating in the first place. Like, it's like trying to cover a wound that's there and it's bleeding, and you're trying to like wrap a plastic bag around it, you know? It's not whether something is right or wrong to happen. It's, if it's happening, we have to deal with it. And so there are so many things in our communities that happen, and you know part of the reason why men, for example, have gotten away with certain behaviors, not just in our communities, but in general, is that fear of talking about it, that shame of saying, like, this happened. Or, when women get asked questions like, well, what were you wearing? What did you say to him? That happens everywhere, right? But take it on a smaller level and take it into the life of a young Arab girl, for example, and then take the culture into context and put all of that together and see what a freaking disaster that is. No? Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember you saying to me, so I said to you, I remember saying that to you that, I fear that people will think, that outsiders will think us to be, um, repressed and all of these things and yada yada. And you said to me that it's important not to deny the experience of women who do feel this way.
Mhm.
And I 100% agree with you. I I do feel a sense of defense for my culture, a sense of like trying to mitigate these bad imagery. And I see it a lot now on TikTok. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of haram police on TikTok that feel this need to judge Muslim creators,
Mhm.
who are just kind of like living their truth and expressing themselves in this really fun medium. And they are always quick to come to the attack. And it's interesting to me when I see that because the first thing that we're taught, one of the first things that we're taught is that only Allah can judge you. And
Mhm.
so when I see that repeatedly over and over again, you become kind of exhausted internally from having to try to correct. And then you kind of step back and realize, well, I'm not going to change someone's mind from like a TikTok comment.
I mean, they say yes, only God can judge you, but also God tells us that we need to remind you of what's right and what's wrong. Like when I took my hijab off, that was one of the most common comments I got, which was like, I've done my job. I've told you what you've done wrong. And I'm like, no, you didn't. You literally bashed me for paragraphs on end.
Mhm.
That's not, I'm pretty sure God wouldn't be happy with something like that. And so it took, at first, I remember responding to comments like that. And then I was like, you know what? It's not worth it because I should make a TikTok where I'm like, don't do it, girl. It's not worth it. And then responding to a comment being like, I did it.
That's hilarious and relevant. You should.
But like I would be, so here's who I had in mind when I responded to the comments. I had in mind the girl who wanted to take her hijab off and who was so afraid of these kinds of comments coming her way. So I would respond in a way where she would read it so she could tell I can fight for myself too. And I think the line that needed to be drawn there was I needed to make sure that people knew me taking it off didn't mean I'm saying hijab is oppressive. Like, I also had a problem with people who said, now you're free. I was free with it on because I chose to wear it, and I'm free with it off because I chose to take it off. And my mom wears it, my sister wears it. They are free women, they can make
Mhm.
up their own minds. That's not the problem. The problem is if I make the choice to put it on or to take it off, it's none of anyone's business, but apparently it becomes everyone's business. And even when I had it on, your jeans are too tight. You're wearing too much makeup. You're this, you're that. And it's just like, I don't know who to please or what to do to please anybody. If God is the only one judging me, why did he send, like,
Did he send you?
send you a DM and tell you to come in like that? I've left that comment before. Did God send you a DM and tell you to come and shame me? You know what I mean? Like, stop focusing on what other people do with their lives and go focus on your own life. Unless someone is personally causing you pain, their life is none of your business. What they do with their lives is none of your business. And so this online culture of like, even in closed circles, I find, it's so toxic. Like you'll find people from the community who pretend to be so open and whatever, and then behind closed doors, all they do is gossip, 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 gossip. And it's just like, and I'm the bad one for showing my arms, where you're sitting there bashing my mom and my dad and my family and my whole ancestry just because I choose to show my hair and my skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of hypocrisy there. And there's a lot of hypocrisy in the world in general. Again, as I'm talking, I don't want any outsider listening into this saying, yeah, see, I knew that community was like that. I knew that culture was like that. Let's not even get started on other problems in the world.
Yeah.
Just the way that women are treated, with the way that, with racism, with Islamophobia, with any kind of um, movement that aims to bring down a group of people or individuals. But, I can be both. I can be a critic of both. I don't have to. I find that many people, when they move here from the Middle East, they try so hard to hang on to their identity that everyone else is bad. And so when you were saying, for example, that you were rebellious, and I'm pretty sure your parents thought it was more about you not adhering to the identity that they felt like they had to protect
That's
you
right.
identity somehow,
Right. Yeah.
instead of like asking, so what's wrong with her going out late? What's wrong with her hanging out with friends who are like, there's nothing wrong with that. Instead of them thinking that, they're thinking, well, that's not what we're used to. Like, that's
Mhm.
not, so that means that our identity is threatened. You can maintain your identity without um you can maintain your identity without shutting parts of who you are, just so that you could say, I am not that identity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. You've gotten really good. Obviously, you're very popular on social media, and you've gotten really good at ignoring the haters
Mm.
and not allowing that to sort of define who you are, not allowing that to overwhelm you in any way. But what advice would you give that girl that's not as strong, that hasn't built up those internal resources to kind of combat those comments, um, and the shame that's associated with it?
Yeah. I would say all it really takes is for you to one time stand up for yourself. And once you feel you're going to feel this wash of shame as soon as you do it. But once you see that you were able to do it, and that, you know what, everything they said about you wasn't actually true, and it doesn't really matter, doesn't really add to your life, doesn't really take away from it, all it takes is that one time. And it will show you it will show you who your tribe is. It will show you who your people are and who doesn't belong in your life. One of the best things that happened to me out of sharing my story, taking my hijab off, moving out, and finding my own voice, was that I was surrounded by so many people who I thought were friends. And overnight, it went from this much to this much. And at the time, it was very isolating and very like, oh my God, what is she thinking of me? And what is he thinking of me? And why didn't this person reach out? And then I would find out this person said this and that person said that. And I would hurt and cry. And then it took me learning to live without the approval of all these people for me to understand that all I really have is me. All I really can control is my actions. Was it worth it for me to stay quiet and continue living a life that didn't feel liberating to me personally, just so that I could keep all these people around me who, the first moment they had a chance to turn their backs on me, they turned their backs on me? That life wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it to stay there. My life now, with very few friends, and more conviction in my beliefs and in who I am as a person, this life is worth it. And it all started by saying no once I'm not going to live by these standards anymore. Once. And I'm not going to say that that moment was magical and I became strong overnight. No. I cried for many nights on end. I, even months after, when I would find out that someone said something about me behind my back, it would hurt me so much. Like, and I would say, but she doesn't even know me. Why would she say that about me? And then it took a few times of that happening for me to say, this is actually disturbing my peace. And I can't control what anyone thinks of me. As long as I'm not allowing what they're saying to me to make me believe something about myself, that's all that matters. And so when you say no that one time, then all of the other women around you who've said no, and they don't have to be around you, they can be anywhere in the world, they will start showing up in your life and you'll start listening to their stories and say, oh my God, she did that. I can do that too. But it has to start from you. Like it has to start from your own internal um, I always say there's like a phoenix inside of you waiting to rise, and you're the one who's going to unleash it. No one is going to, if you're waiting for someone to come and notice you in that corner and say, here, let me help you. You can be waiting your whole life and you can get that person to lift you up. Absolutely. But then who are you? Who are you without that person lifting you up? You need to discover who you are and what you want. And you need to be the one to say, I'm going to fight for what I want. And you're not the first person who had to do that. You're not the first person who had to, in any way, be courageous before you feel ready to be courageous. Like, look at the women throughout history who had to be the first one to do something. Do you think it was easy for them? Absolutely not. Do you think that their lives were safe? Absolutely not. So look at how change doesn't happen unless you do something different. And what determines whether it's worth it or not is you, not anyone else. You have to determine whether a step you want to take is worth it for you. You know, for example, I don't like always speaking in abstract terms, but for example, taking the hijab off just because, I went through that. At first, I thought I was going through my mind, you know, I've been wearing it for this long and people know me like this and people are going to talk and they're going to say different things about me. Is it worth it for me to go through that? Yeah, for me it was. But another girl might say, no, I don't want to go through that. And I've heard women say that, like, I really don't want to wear it, but I don't want to go through all of that, everything that's associated with it. So it's totally up to you what that worth is. Yeah.
Absolutely. You touched on being a phoenix, and you have your third book, Sparks of Phoenix. It's all about reclamation and rising above. I think it's so incredibly relevant to our female audience. And I'd love to close this chat with you reciting a poem or passage from Sparks of Phoenix that you feel like.
My favorite poems from it. It's actually a bit long, so it'll be like 3 minutes, but I'm sure you're okay with that. So
100%.
called Excuse Me, Sir, and it's one of my favorite poems. I've performed this one so many times and never get sick of it. Okay. Excuse me, sir. I see you looking in the wrong place. You look at my face as if there is nothing to see other than the color of my eyes, the fairness of my skin, or the adventures that my body might take you on. You look at my body as if there is nothing to see other than the curves of mountains and valleys, as if my body is a land for you to journey, to discover, to occupy. Excuse me, sir, my body is not a place for your conquest. Don't get me wrong, I am a mystery. I am a masterpiece. I carry with my body the cities of the world. I have carved on my body streets that you want me to hide because you see them as scars. I have built in my eyes blazing fires that you want to put out because you are afraid to get burned. And if you dare to venture, sir, beyond the color of my eyes, beyond the touch of my skin, beyond the places on my body that you want to own. You will find oceans that you will drown in if you are not ready to sail. You will find mountains of wisdom that I've inherited from every woman, every mother, every girl on this earth. If you dare to venture beyond my skin, you will find skies filled with love and compassion that centuries of women have instilled within me. The problem, sir, is that you want to own parts of me instead of honor the depths of me. But what you should know, sir, is that only I own the map. I am not a land for you to occupy. I am not a ship for you to steer. I am not a fire for you to contain. I am not a property for you to put a price on. Whether I am young, old, or in between, who I am and what I give to this world is not defined by the canvas that your eyes paint my body on. You see, sir, the way that you see me says a lot more about you than it says about me. The way that you devalue the treasures in me says a lot more about you than it says about me. The way that you define the beauty of me with the pleasure that you get out of me says a lot more about you than it says about me. I am beautiful, not because of my face, not because of my body. I am beautiful because of the heart contained in this body. I am beautiful because of the mind controlling this body. So if you must grab me by something, let it be my heart. It is what makes the world a compassionate place. If you must grab me by something, let it be my mind. It is what spreads wisdom in this world like wildfire. And finally, sir, I must ask you, if the woman in me sees the human in you, why can't the man in you see the human in me? It's one of
Oh,
my
well,
favorite.
so much for sharing that. And
You.
thank you so much for the opportunity to chat with me, sit with me. If anyone is interested to continue the journey of Najwa, you can find her across all social media platforms at Najwa Zebian. Though I think you're the real Najwa Zebian on TikTok.
Oh, actually, they verified me and they
Oh,
gave.
nice. Awesome. I was wondering. I was like, is there another one? Is there another Najwa Zebian?
Najwa Zebian because what happened was when I signed up, Najwa Zebian was taken, and I was
Mm-hmm.
this account has 0 followers, 0 likes, 0 everything. It looks like someone just took it. So when TikTok contacted me to verify me, I said, if you wouldn't mind checking if this account is active. If it's not, please give it to me. So they did.
So nice. Thank you again for representing us and representing us so powerfully. And remember, it's okay to be a single Arab female.
More than
More than okay.